Our guest today is a motivational speaker by day, an amazing husband and father by night. He created Tenacity Foundation to share his knowledge that he's gained along the way to help people to set themselves free and to become liberated from things that are holding them down one step at a time. His foundation, Tenacity Foundation, is filled with people that have tenacity, motivation, creativity, and drive to become better and have a successful future. Please help me welcome Joel Simmons to the show. How you doing today, Joel?
Hey, how's it going, Coach T?
I am doing great. I really appreciate you being a guest on here. We spoke briefly before, and I just felt like, you'd be a great fit. Your messaging and your foundation all align with what I think is so important for young people to know. And your experiences are something I think will also be beneficial, not only to our younger people, but also to the adults that are in our listening audience. So if you would just tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got Tenacity Foundation started.
I definitely appreciate that, Coach T. Definitely thank you for having me on the show. I feel the same way. We had a great chemistry on the last time we spoke, so definitely looking forward to this. So a little bit about me. I guess the Tenacity Foundation is like my brainchild. It's simply I was in a dark place inside of my life, and I started to just think as I was coming out of that place, or really as I came out of that place, I just felt really liberated. And I also felt like there was a lot of constraints that I had going on inside of me that I was able to become free from. And some of those things were like attached to other people. So even though I thought I was a really independent individual, I realized that I did have some dependency issues and that those I had worked out, and that freedom felt so good. It was like, I just want to be liberated from everything, anything, and everyone should be free. So the Tenacity Foundation is like built on that philosophy that we want to help people to become more liberated, have a freer mindset, which creates a freer atmosphere, freer body, freer lifestyle. And with that being said, we want to encourage people, through motivation or inspiration with different types of techniques on how to do that, as well as just how to feel good about yourself while you're doing it.
Yeah, no, I actually like that very much, especially the inspiration part, because that's a big part of, I think what my mission is inspiring young people, and is obviously what kind of got you on the right path too, was you inspired yourself that you had to get out of that dark place and you knew there was something better for you. But let me ask you, was there any one particular thing that really set you in motion in the right direction? Or was it a series of things that kind of woke you up to make you realize that?
So I want to say that I actually was doing pretty well, quite frankly. I am a husband of going on, what is it, 25 years, I suppose now, 24 years in about 30 days. And I have three children. I used to have my godson that lived with me for about 9 years of his life. And he's back with his family, so that's great. And, so firefighter, career fireman, right? Career fireman, lieutenant paramedic, ride the box, 15 years. I've been doing that. Preacher, I've been doing that for 22 years. So it was just this point in time, a few years back, where I just began to realize there was this huge transition in the life of myself as well as my family. And it was during that course of time that I realized I was attached to, to my family in such a way that it caused me detriment. And that's when I just started kind of like spiraling down, because it was a series of events, but they were all within a very short amount of time. And those events just caused me to, I desired to get out of it, but I just couldn't, it affected me. And I mean, overall, it was like the grace of God that came in and just kind of like swooped up and took me and said, hey, listen, I'm giving you a whole lot, a lot. You've got it better than you think. This is a hard thing to deal with, but you got to deal with it, and you can make it through it. And I did,
Your example and your explanation is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here, because I think there's a misconception that things that adults go through are different than what kids go through. Everybody goes through those tough times, and it's all about how you find your way out. If it's through inspiration, motivation, guidance, direction, or leadership from somebody else, we all go through those things, but we have to find our own way, and everybody can't, direct you where you need to go. But your example was you were aware that things were spiraling in a certain direction and it had to be stopped. And you were given direction from above in some parts. But back to my point is your foundation, when you talk about having people that are tenacious and they're being motivators, how do you motivate? Because you said you're also a minister, when you're working with kids, what is your approach with them in helping them find their way without telling them which way to go?
Okay, so absolutely great question. And I love the way that you listen. You listen really well, and you keep on target really well. So I can only imagine that what you're doing with the children is really working. Patience is the word that comes to mind, from what you were just saying, patience. I had to be patient with myself. It was a difficult time. I sought out help from people that I felt like I could trust. And part of that was this release and dependency, right? From people, not because they meant me bad, but because it was truly one of those situations where, I didn't feel as if other people could understand. And I think that there are many children who feel like, hey, you just don't understand my story. That, quite frankly, there's a song and we sing that song. You don't know my story, the things that I've been through, and that rings a lot of truth. So, I used to have a philosophy, and that philosophy was the amount of time it takes for you to dig a hole for yourself. Many times we don't even recognize that we're digging ourselves into a hole. But the amount of time that it took us to dig that hole and to get trapped in it, once we realize we are in a hole and we're trapped, and we can go back and look and say, wow, I've been here for a long time. Essentially, it takes the same amount of time to kind of figure out how to get out of it, except for one thing, except you have someone in your corner that has kind of like been in a like situation, that has dug a hole like that, and has the wisdom to impart to you that can help you through. A mentor, a coach, preacher, a teacher, an inspirational character figure inside of your life that just has the ability to say the right words. So when I say patience for somebody like yourself or someone like myself who looks for these people that are in the holes, the proverbial hole that we, maybe not you, but that I put myself in and that others have put themselves in that I can relate to. When I'm looking for them, the number one thing that I'm doing is not going in and saying, hey, I'm the expert on your problem. Yeah, I'm an expert in what I do, yes, but that doesn't mean that I understand your problem. What I do understand is how to get out of problems. What I do understand is how to recognize the steps to the stairwell. What I do understand how to do is recognize the rungs in the ladder, that sometimes we discover, but we don't know what to do with them. We find a step that elevates us, but we don't use it. We don't use it because that is uncharted territory. That's not familiar to us. And I love the way you said it. Just like children, it's the same thing in adults. It's not like it's something different. Yeah, they're different problems. They're different situations. They're different concerns. They're different tribulations. Yes. But a lot of times it's the exact same techniques that we have to revert to in order to get out of it. And hopefully along the way, we've gained some more wisdom to be able to utilize more tools to access that information, that feeling, and be able to make that escape. So patience, being patient
I absolutely agree with you 100% because believe it or not, that is my 2 points are listen to kids and then don't judge them. And when I say don't judge them, to me, that's an extension of patience because by not judging them, you're being patient. You're listening to what their problem or what their issue is. I like or opportunity. I always like to say opportunity because I like to look at the positive side of everything. So I look at it as an opportunity to assist them and guide them in a particular direction. But part of what you're saying made me think of I do Coach T's tip of the day on social media. I do it. You may have seen him on Instagram and I do them on TikTok. I just did one the other day, and I think you'll appreciate this one. It was about being used, taken advantage of, and manipulated. And my tip was, how do you avoid that happening? Well, number one is you have to be aware of that when that person is doing that. And how do you know that? Because a manipulator and a user will take more than they ever give. And as you were giving that example of thinking about, you're talking about digging a hole. Well, sometimes you get dug in that hole because you're giving and giving, and those manipulators and users are taking and taking. And as they take, you're digging deeper. As they take, you're digging deeper. And it's until you wake up and realize, man, I'm down here, they're up there, because they've taken everything. Everything I offer, they take, and they offer nothing in return to keep us on the same level. And I use that tip because some of the things that some of the kids go through and they share with me, that's what they're describing. They're around people that just take. And when they take their soul, they're just pulling everything from them. So I think that's one of the struggles that some kids go through.
Yes, sir. I agree. I agree 100%. And, us as leaders in the community, as inspirers, as motivators, as in mentors and coaches, as in parents and loved ones that care about these young people, one of the things that we should always be teaching is self-love, being aware of who you are. Children have to be aware, and this is something that must be taught. We as these individuals that I just named and these functionalities, once we come to the awareness, we need to think about, what did it take for me to understand who I am? Write that stuff down. You need to record it in the analogs of your mind, because these are things that need to be shared with young people, because some of this stuff is not being shared, especially with what's been happening with younger and younger people having children. And in America, in these 50 states where we have this right to life type of mentality, maybe not all, but many have this right to life, right to prosperity, where we have this ego, this set on edge type of mentality. It's very important that we begin to teach more and more, because there's so many people that don't understand their worth, don't understand their value. And children are growing up without this understanding of value. Their minds are so fixated in things that don't matter, and there's an old saying, if you don't mind, it don't matter, Well, what does matter? Because that's what you're minding. And if you're minding things that truly don't matter, then you're not putting anything into yourself and you're not learning anything about yourself. This is some of the stuff that we have to expose, because children nowadays, there's so many of them that are growing up and they're underneath the obesity. They're underneath I don't know who I am, what I am. Am I supposed to look this way or look this way? Am I supposed to date this one or date this one? There are so many controversial issues, and there's so much in the media, in the public eye, that is saying, just do whatever you want to do. But there's a price to pay with do whatever you want to do. There is. So in obtaining freedom, there has to be some type of rule, some type of guideline, some type of value that must be set. Because if everyone grows up saying, I can do whatever, and nobody has value, what on earth will we end up with? Yeah. A valueless society that will do whatever they want, whenever they want, to whomever they want. And that is not what we want as a people, because seeing that, is painful
Yeah,
to the
no.
mind.
I agree 100%. And you're talking about kids having kids. The other part, as soon as you said that, first thing popped in my mind is, we talk about the increased suicide attempt rate because of what you were talking about, kids not knowing who they are, where they want to go, and they give up so soon on themselves. And because they don't have the support systems in place to keep them on the right path, and it makes me think, again, going back to these daily tips I just mentioned one the other day, is you get out of life what you put into it. So again, is what you go after. When you're going after what you aspire to be or to do, that takes effort. That takes about having the right attitude. And what you were describing is a lot of what kids don't have. They don't have the right attitude. They don't have the right motivation. They don't have the self-inspiration. They don't have the self-motivation to do these things. And it is becoming upon people like yourself and me as well to assist in any way that we can without being pushy. And there's an old saying, nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care. And to me, that is a creed that I live by, because it's just the last thing I want to make sure you're going to know how much I care. You could care less how much I know, because once you know I care, you're going to be in front of me and you're going to be listening. Whether you take my advice or not makes no difference to me. But as long as I have your attention, I have an opportunity to add some positivity to your life.
Powerful, man. Powerful. And that's funny when you say that, because the first thing I started thinking about was like diabetics. People with diabetes, so there are those that have an issue. Their glucose does not go into their cells. So they get this intense amount of sugar captured inside the interstitial space, and it is unable to go inside of their body into the organs to make the energy to give the person, the energy that they need. So they go into comas. They go into diabetic comas. And the thing that they need is insulin. And insulin is this mysterious thing, not so mysterious, body produces it, but these people are insulin, dependent. So it goes into the body, and what does it do? It latches onto the sugar, it latches onto the glucose, and it drives it it has a key to the door. It opens the door and the sugar enters in, and next thing you know, the body is functioning well again. Because for whatever reason, the body shut down to the glucose and it treated it like trash. And the thing is like children are doing the same thing to, good things, the positive attitudes, the motivation, the inspiration. They're shutting that down. And what we have to do is we have to become like insulin. We have to go in there and we have to be, sometimes it is a passive way, but I'm not going to tell you that it's always passive. I had a patient a couple of days ago, and my partner was passively speaking to that patient. And when he was unable to get anywhere with her because she began to cuss and fuss, I went over to her and I said, hey, with a very direct voice, I said, this is not right what you're doing. We are here to help you. You need to understand that. Do you have children? She shook her head. I said, so do I. Would your children like to see you acting like this? She said, no. I said, neither would mine. And she said, okay. And I said, thank you so much. Now listen, this is what we're going to do. Because it's all about what you just said, about showing that you care,
right.
And that comes in different forms. So we have to develop relationships first in order for us to be like that insulin, like that key to unlock the door. First, we have to understand what type of door we're heading into.
Yes.
So we have to take the time to learn these young people, to learn one another. First, learn ourselves so that we can go ahead and start to work on ourselves, and then we can work on other people and to help them to get what they need. Because what we desire to give is sweet, just like glucose, just like sugar. It's sweet, and it's designed to give them the energy that they need to be able to make it.
That is an absolute perfect analogy. Insulin is a great one, and we use that as perfect. And I may have to cut this sucker up and reuse that one, man. That's a great soundbite, man. I love that. But you have a true understanding of it, and that's why, again, why would they have you on here? Because you and I are like two peas in a pod. But you know as well as I do, there's more than one way to do something. And your example with the lady, passive work sometimes. Sometimes tough love is what people need as a wake-up call. And when you do that, you explained it as well. She recognized, okay, all right, yeah, he's calling me out, but the way he's calling me out, I can relate to, because if the shoe was on the other foot, I know how I would want it to go down. And then she kind of sat back and took her medicine, if you will, both as a pun and literally. But she understood where you were coming from. But the great thing about it is, you know when to push the pedal, and you know when to let up on it. You know when to cruise, and then you know when to slow down. You know when to speed up. And for me, when I'm dealing with kids that have that same kind of thing, I've had to do the same thing. And the end result, relationship grows from a tough love situation, sometimes more than the passive approach. And to me, that's the most rewarding, because that's when you realize, more people might need that kind of approach. But as a coach too, I learn with every individual I come across, I learn a better way to coach and a better way to reach people, because everybody is different and everybody requires different amounts of insulin, if you will.
Ah, yes, very well.
Yeah.
I love that. Very well put. And that's the important part, right? When it all comes down to it, it's our objective, and it's being made clear.
Yes.
The whole point is, I'm looking to reach you to help you, not to hurt you.
Right.
So whether I come a little more passive or I come in a much more direct approach, it's because I believe this is what fits. Yeah. You believe that's what fits. And that's something that you don't learn inside of a book. That's experience.
Yes, that's life experience. Yes, that's absolutely. But this whole conversation, believe it or not, Joe, is really another reason why the timing is so great. I've been on a recent soapbox, and I think you'll relate to it. Is I hear so much. We're talking about the teen pregnancy and then about the high suicide attempt rate, but all that encompasses one thing that really rubs me the wrong way, is when you hear so much negativity about this next generation, or this generation of preteens and teens. They're entitled, they're lazy, they want everything given to them, this, that, and the other thing. But then I'm like, whoa. If that's true, the people that are saying that are contributing to the issue as opposed to offering a solution. And for me, is if you hear that, that's where you got to stop and go, hey, it's happening because we're enabling the kids to do that. At some point, we have to stop and go, hey, you know what? If they're so entitled, let's stop making them so entitled. Let's hold them accountable. Let's make them personally responsible. Let's make them commit to something. But it's too easy just to blow it off and jump on the bandwagon of they're entitled. Yeah, you're right. They are. Well, the kids hear that. Kids listen with their eyes these days, not their ears. And they see so much. And don't get me started on parents and sports. That's another whole dynamic that these kids are learning so much negative from. And, when my mama told the referee this, that, and other thing, so I can tell adults what I think, and it's okay. So that is when we talk about the accountability of parents and adults and educators, business owners, because when you're hiring a teenager, you're taking on responsibility to help them develop as a person, to be a better business-minded person. That's a responsibility that you automatically take on. You don't get to choose whether you do that or not. But so many of these kids get jobs and they quit jobs left and right because all they do is get a paycheck. Nobody's committed to teaching them beyond whatever the day-to-day responsibilities are of that job. Having kids that help me in my nonprofit, you know what they do? They're turning their experience in a nonprofit, being participants, into their senior projects, because they want to learn what it takes to run a nonprofit. They want to find out what Coach T does behind the scenes, because they value what they're getting out of it. So if I can do that with a nonprofit, that's what businesses should be doing with kids, is giving them any and everything that they can to help them prosper in the future when they get out of school.
Powerful statement there, brother. I mean, powerful. And you're talking about a movement that we need to have. And we need to have that with, the children as well as the parents, because you're also talking about this wraparound type of program where we start to deal with the exact issues. There's a scripture in the book of James, I believe it was, but it was, when you see your brother and he has want, he has need of something, instead of just saying, be blessed and going on your way, give him what he needs. Give him the blanket, be thou warmed and be blessed, and then go about your way. So what we're talking about is like, hey, listen, put the rubber to the pavement, to the asphalt, because it takes something. It's not, Maslow's hierarchy. At the very base level, it's clothing, shelter, you know what I mean? Food. And sometimes these are the things that are needed. But as you start to move up, there's this need of belonging, right? And then when you start to learn about the families, and if families are just like allowing their children to do whatever, they're not supportive, then there's a whole nother lesson that has to be taught, because we can't control the child. We can't control the parents,
right?
And the parents, if we come off the wrong way, then we may actually close the door for us to be able to help that individual, that youth anymore. So it's a very delicate type of scenario, especially when the parents are promoting these types of attitudes and this type of thought process. That's like, it's okay to treat Coach T that way because he's not on our level.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's not okay.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And for you, the same thing. I mean, you understand that because you just described it very well. I mean, it's all about our approach. And yeah, we got to kind of walk a thin line sometimes, because, I'm sure you've had those moments where it's kind of like, man, I wish I could, but I know, you know what, this isn't the time. It might be later, but I got to ride that line until I feel comfortable enough to push the envelope. And so part of our job requires sacrifice,
Yes.
Sacrificing the end result for a little bit longer, as opposed to trying to get across that finish line like it's a sprint. We both know it's a marathon. Life is a marathon. So as a marathon, each lap is a learning opportunity. And that's where I think we have to remind not only them, but ourselves, take your time. Patience, back to what you were saying earlier, patience comes into play.
Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. Well put. Each lap is a learning lesson.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, you inspired that, dude. I wasn't even in my head. When you talked about insulin, I said, I gotta come with one that I could use. And then the lap came in. Well, look, man, we've actually kind of burned through time, but there's a couple of things I wanted to. Well, first and foremost, I've got to have you back on, because we just hit the surface, man. And I think there's definitely some opportunity for us to dig a little deeper. So I definitely would love to have you come back on, and maybe we can carve out a little extra time so we can go for about another hour, probably, because I'm sure we could. Oh, by the way, man, early on, man, you were on the pulpit there where you got you going. Now, I just want to make sure you didn't think I didn't hear that, man. I was feeling the Holy Spirit there for a minute. You had me, man. I love it. I could tell you're good at what you do, my man. So tell me, who is the one person that's inspired you the most in your life, and why?
So I have three people, but my mother is of the top three. My mother, what she's done for me, she showed me love. She proved to me love. A mother's love is like none other. When I was coming up, I wanted to get away from her. I just wanted to be my own self. But when I grew up, when I got myself together, I realized how much sacrifice she applied in my life, and I cherish her for that. And we have a great friendship now because of that, and because I'm blessed to still have her alive with me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No, I would be 100%. And I'm the same way. My mom and I have like the best relationship, and I'm the middle of three boys, and I feel like I have the most unique relationship with her as far as that friendship type. And like you, we don't understand and don't appreciate it when we're younger, but when we get older, it truly is a blessing to know that. Well, I should say it's a blessing to know what they sacrificed and what they gave up for us to have what we needed. Far beyond the clothing and the roof over our head and the food in our mouths. I know from my perspective, it was a lot. So I know from your perspective as well. And the last thing we'd love for you to do is share how our listeners can get in touch with you, follow you, and anything you want to share that you're working on.
Sure. Thank you again. You all can email me direct at joel@tenacityfoundation.com. Feel free to do that. You also can look me up on Instagram and Facebook, Tenacity Foundation, as well as on TikTok as the Motivatorpreneur. Don't ask me to spell it. I forgot.
I actually just followed you too, by the way, right before we got on. I said, I found him. Yes, I got to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure did.
Yeah, I'm in LinkedIn at Joel Simmons, and you can reach out to me. You can call my business line as well, 561-696-2028. I'd be glad to speak with whomever it is. I love this. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Listen, when the guy is giving out his phone number, hey, he is approachable. And if you haven't figured out from this conversation, Joel's very approachable. And I tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. And I learned a little something, and I'm going to use that insulin analogy. Boy, I got to do a little more research on how it all works there. But you're well versed in that. I'm impressed, I tell you. So, but anyway, thank you so much, Joel, for your time. I know you have a busy schedule, but appreciate you taking the time to be on here. And I know it's been beneficial for me, and I know that it's been educational for our listeners, and definitely look forward to staying in contact with you and having you back on soon.
Thank you so much, Coach T. It's been beneficial to me as well. I've enjoyed my time here with you, and I'm looking forward to you coming on to our podcast.
Nice. Okay. Look forward to that too. Well, thank you, Joel. I appreciate it, my man. And as always, I'm Coach T. I'm here to educate, support, and inspire the next generation of leaders. Till next time, take care.
Coach T's new book, The Ultimate Guide to Success for Preteens and Teens, is the perfect resource for preteen and teen personal growth and development skills. It breaks down in detail his Sea of Success program and its applications in 10 key development areas. The program applies Coach T's 3 key components: simplicity, effort, and attitude. Order your copy today on Amazon. Available in paperback and hardback.